This is my straight out the cinema review of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Yes, I've just got out of the cinema and I've just sat down to do this review, and I am still pumped. This movie is awesome. It was not quite what I expected, to be honest with you, and there was such a high bar going in from No Way Home. I don't think they quite passed it, but they're pretty much on par with that bar that they've set from that previous movies where they've stuck quite a lot of villains in, especially Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2. There are times when they've put too many in, but this film works just as well as No Way Home. They fit quite a lot of villains in there to a point. Obviously, Scorpion being one of the main ones in the movie, Jean Grey being in the movie, and obviously various other characters like the Hulk and so on and so forth. But I feel like they've managed to get that right. They've managed to get it spot on without trying to go too far into, oh, we could just keep adding more. They've leveled it out, and the pacing of it with the way that it actually works and the way that they've done it, I think is really, really good, and it definitely plays into the story. And I think for that fact that, you know, he's doing his stuff as Spider-Man and sort of not really focusing on Peter Parker that much, I thought was a really cool beginning, and that's where it kind of shows you all these villains and stuff that he's been doing right at the beginning of the movie. And at that point, it then moves on to he's starting to feel not himself and he's changing and all this sort of stuff, which I think they handled really, really well, but they could have added a little bit more to it, which I think is my only sort of slight disappointment with it. I know there's something, I think it was in one of the TV series where he had like 8 arms, and I thought that would have kind of been cool to actually like include that, and something, you know, somewhere down the line that might be something they will eventually add in. But obviously for now, I think they maybe wanted to keep it a bit more contained. But it was kind of cool that they, that they showed like the progression of his powers, and obviously giving him the organic webbing and stuff like that, actually showing how his body mutates and starts to grow, which I thought was really, really cool, and it never really been fully explained. Sort of, I don't think in any other Spider-Man stuff that I've seen. So that was really, really cool. And of course, the sound design when all this sort of stuff and the heightened senses is happening all really comes through nicely. Sound design was awesome. They had some really, really cool like shots within the mask and stuff like that, which I thought was awesome. They really upped it on the creativity, like the slow motion and the fast paced stuff. Some of the fights generally felt like you were playing the video game. The first one on the PS4, that Spider-Man, the Insomniac Spider-Man, that was really cool. I really like that, and I was like, I see where they kind of have gone with it from there, which is kind of cool. I really like that kind of stuff. Overall, the creative choices of this movie, I think they've done a really, really good job. One other thing I think they do have, and I think they haven't fully explained it, and I don't know whether they're going to do it somewhere down the line, but they didn't explain Jean Grey all that well, I don't think. They kind of had a bit of backstory. Obviously, we know she's meant to be a mutant, and sort of, as far as I remember, mutants don't really exist within this sort of timeline. So it's like, did she come from somewhere else, or she just happened to gain powers? It's not really sort of fully explained, which is a bit of a disappointment. But overall, I think that the movie's quite long. It's, nearly 2.5 hours, and there's a lot to fit in. So at that point, they could have spent, 5 extra minutes doing that, and I think it would have broadened it out a little bit more, just had a little bit of backstory of obviously why she's doing this, but you don't find out what exactly she's doing till, sort of 3/4 of the way through the movie. cast was absolutely on point as usual. It's just to be fair, Spider-Man hasn't really done anything wrong in terms of overall movie quality. They've all been really good. I know there's obviously been some like slightly creative choices that have maybe gone a little bit off. People have thrown a bit too many villains in, and I think they've learnt their lesson from that now, which is good. It's understandable. But this overall, I think like the arc of the story is very reasonably well paced. It handles each character that Spider-Man / Peter Parker comes into contact with really, really well. You know, they're trying to cover the stuff from No Way Home. They're trying to, you know, cover stuff from all spin-offs and adding in extra characters as well, and, you know, building all of that up until the climactic finish. And they've done a really good job with this movie, and it doesn't look cheap either. I've seen obviously some of the recent Marvel movies. I mean, especially the ones like The Marvels and Thor: The Dark. Sorry, not the Dark World. Love and Thunder. My bad. They just looked a little bit cheap and cheerful and just not that good. This, on the other hand, looks amazing. The creative choices they've done, again with sound design and everything else, just choice of shots with when his eyes go black when he's mutating and stuff like that, is really, really cool. It really adds to the story. I'm not going to go into too much detail about overall story, because I think, you know, it's one of those ones I definitely feel like you need to actually go see it, enjoy it for what it is, and not really have anything spoil. I've been lucky enough to not have any spoilers. I literally just did not type in anything Spider-Man, nothing at all, to try not and see anything whatsoever, and it's definitely paid off, because I think going into it knowing a little bit, I was like, I think that would have not made it quite as a cool cinematic experience. But overall, I definitely think this movie is on par with No Way Home, and I know for a fact that the next thing we see Spider-Man in is going to be certainly interesting. I don't think it's going to be Doomsday. It could be, I think, Secret Wars, but the teaser for it was certainly interesting, and I also like the way that the teaser worked had also been sort of implemented within the movie as well. So there, without going into details, there's a tracker, and they use the tracker throughout the movie, and then the tracker comes into play at the end. Without going into too much detail, that's kind of a little bit of it, but overall, I generally think this movie is freaking awesome, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this again. So thank you very much for watching this straight out of the Cinemark review. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what you think down in the comment section, and we shall see you all soon. Bye bye.